All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mitch Nemmers, and I am the VP of Sales here at Magaya. But today, I am nothing but your humble host here and Master of Ceremonies for our webinar, which is how to simplify your entry Type 86 shipments, and of course, tying that together with accelerating clearance time. So, what we're going to cover today is, some of you may have already hopped on the Type 86 entry bandwagon, but there's always room for improvement, or maybe you haven't at all yet. So in today's webinar, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the benefits of Type 86 entries and 7 ways that you can simplify them, including being able to load thousands of house bills in a single Excel sheet, connecting to an ABI platform and submitting those entries via EDI or API, being able to automatically analyze potential PGA flags, mass disclaim for those PGAs across an entire entry set, and then also identifying any PGA flags that are not able to be disclaimed so you can handle those as well. But first, a couple items of housekeeping. So before we begin, I just wanted to mention these. You are going to receive a recording of this webinar after the session is complete. And also the question Q&A panel should be open now. So send us your questions throughout. And if we have time at the end and we can get to them, we will answer those live. If not, you'll get those in writing afterwards. So joining me today are my two colleagues, Amy Gomez and Stephen Johnson. Amy is a licensed customs broker with over 20 years of experience in both customs and logistics, ranging from global trade compliance manager roles where she oversaw global customs strategy and compliance for a Fortune 500 company to her most recent role joining us here at Magaya in customs compliance software sales. So Amy's skills have given Magaya a kind of insider perspective of the day-to-day challenges that customs brokers face and really have helped us develop our solution to be even more innovative and further our depth of functionality. Stephen has been with us for a very long time. Steve is a senior account executive with us who specializes specifically in customs compliance. Steve has unmatched in-depth knowledge of ABI solutions after being here for over a decade and a half and working with Magaya's customs compliance solution. So without further ado, let's get started, and we're going to kick things off with a poll. So before we get into everything, we wanted to get a feel for your operations. So if you could go ahead and select one of these and kind of pick which one you do most of, right? The type of Type 86 or Section 321 operations you engage in. Get the music to go on. All right, let's take a look at those results. So Type 86 being the big one, followed by Section 321, a little bit of mix of air ocean tying in the ISF there, and just a little bit of truck, and then quite a few answers actually with none of the above. So great starting point with this webinar for those who don't do any of the above, and then hopefully for the rest of you who are doing some of these other types, it'll be informative and enlightening for you. So now let's take a look at what is going on in the industry. And I think the best people to do that are Stephen and Amy who are in this. But Amy, why don't you start by breaking down the different types of entries that have been introduced in order to simplify this import process that we're seeing more and more of now?
Sure thing, Mitch. As a licensed customs broker, I know how tedious the import filing process can be, which is why I was so excited to see the introduction of Type 86. To simplify the framework for de minimis shipments, Title 19 of the Tariff Act of 1930, Section 321 was introduced. So the goal was to be able to clear shipments without the need for duty or other taxes related to the imported merchandise. The new entry type was intended to improve the ability to monitor the safety and security of low-valued shipments with a value of $800 or less. It also streamlined e-commerce shipments by providing greater visibility into the shipment and allowing qualifying entry details to be filed electronically via ABI. It also is worth noting that entry Type 86 filings are applicable to shipments that fall under government partner agencies. So as long as they remain below the $800 threshold, you can do a Type 86 and still file the PGA. Okay. In fact, it's estimated 80% of Americans currently shop using one or more e-commerce platforms.
Yeah, I think we've seen that continue to just go up right after COVID and everything, and with the presence of even bigger e-commerce platforms, right? It's just becoming more and more prevalent.
Yeah. Not to mention global e-commerce is expected to reach 6.3 trillion this year, according to Forbes. That would be a 10% increase over 2022. This just goes to show you that quick and painless e-commerce shipment entries are vital to the success of any freight forwarding organization. How's that, Mitch?
Yep, completely agree, and I appreciate it. That's fantastic. Thank you. It's really cool to see how customs regulations actually adjust to market trends as they for sure need to, right, to keep up with the changing dynamics of our industry and goods moving, especially across the Pacific. So now I want to shift a little bit of gears here, and I want to hear from you, Stephen. So can you take us into just a little bit more of the benefits of a Type 86 shipment versus just a standard shipment, for example?
Yeah, of course, Mitch. I'd love to. So the first one, of course, is going to be efficiency. Type 86 entries are going to save you time and money by eliminating manual processing. They're submitted electronically and accepted almost immediately, usually within seconds for lower volumes, or it could be 20 minutes or so, or even longer for super high volume shipments, like 50,000 house bills on one master. And the next one would definitely be high volume processing. So shipment consolidations of over 100,000 packages, they can be handled by the software with ease, which helps to manage the volumes needed for present day direct consumer e-commerce businesses, which is what we're seeing a lot of. And of course, significant cost savings. So the Type 86 entry software sends transactions for as low as pennies. You don't have to worry about setup or maintenance fees, no duty taxes or fees payable either. Not to mention MPF is in charge when the shipments are released at a CFS warehouse, and there's no fee for responses received by CBP like the API or AMS, as well as sending updates or deletions, I should say, cancellations of those releases to CBP.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a big deal. Obviously, every penny counts here, literally, especially with these minutes
Yep.
shipments. So that's a great point.
Absolutely. And of course, streamlining complex shipments. So PGA regulated goods can be automatically mass disclaimed. Entries now subject to Section 301, 201, or 232, as well as classified goods under Chapter 9899. They're also allowed here within Type 86. And simplicity. So Type 86 entries are as easy as uploading a spreadsheet or connecting via API, literally. You only need to key in a few data elements for each shipment, and then the entry summary, and bonds are not required, and corrections, I should say, and cancellations of those releases, they're no problem when submitting it to customs.
Nice. That is really simple. Only needing 10 data elements. That's great.
Yeah, of course.
So that's awesome. And considering that it really does need to be a simple process, right? If it's estimated that, as we see here, 1.8 million package shipments valued at less than $800 arrive in the U.S. each day. So this number continues to increase, and especially with for those familiar with the industry, right? We're coming up on peak season right now, and it's knocking on the door. So, it's really, in theory, it could double, triple, or I mean, could quadruple over the next several months, depending on kind of how some of these headwinds go. I mean, I know there is a little bit of a slowdown, but we still have seen this section of the business and e-commerce specifically continue to grow.
Absolutely, Mitch. I've seen one of our filers increase 2 million transactions from month to month.
That's a big jump. That's a big jump, and good for them.
Yep, it's a needle mover.
So we're going to go to our next poll now, and I think you should be able to select multiple here, but based on your experience, what do you think would help demystify the complexities of the Type 86 filing regulations? It looks like maybe you can only do one, so I guess which one would be the most applicable at this point for enlightening you and demystifying, as we said? All right, so let's see what we came up with here. So, actually, outside of mass upload, which is the biggest one here, pretty even across the board there. So, mass upload obviously being a very important one, and one of the things that truly makes using a platform that allows that mass upload worth its salt, right? So, with that, I think that's a perfect time to get into some of those best practices that are going to help with that simplification of the Type 86 shipments, and we'll probably touch a little bit on the mass upload, but also the PGA disclaim tariff replacements and also applying those other PGAs not disclaimed. And visibility all wraps up with everything and being able to have the visibility of the shipments, whether they're cleared or not. So this is a perfect segue into actually the best practices we're going to talk about. So now on to what we really came here for, kind of our tips and tricks, if you will, or the demystification or simplification of those Type 86 shipments.
And Mitch, if you don't mind, I did want to share a few thoughts on some of the best practices before we get into the tips of filing. There's a lot of audits lately with customs. I think some of these tips and tricks kind of fall into play here as well.
Fantastic idea.
Sweet. Thank you, Mitch. So the first and probably most important best practice is training your employees. You want to develop a training program for your employees, provide them with trade community and customs compliance resources, and ensure that they read and understand the brokerage guides that are issued by CBP. They should have an in-depth understanding of customs expectations as well as ABI or AMS system expectations. And most importantly, they should participate in those recurring education programs as a way to stay up on the latest customs regulations, processes, and procedures. So training employees is most important for sure. Secondly, would be vetting new customers. Analyze the documentation provided by your customer, your importer. Check for references as needed. Denied party screening is going to be key. Essentially, validate that the importer is an acceptable candidate to conduct customs business with. So protect yourself. And of course, audit workflow, procedures, and entry processes. You can set parameters with different ABI, AMS platforms out there to generate reports that can be delivered on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to show you how your entry filers are performing. Auditing will definitely help to ensure filings are being conducted properly, and that should be implemented in every SOP and workflow. Fourth is, right, Mitch. Fourth is definitely ensure your employees have the tools that they need. Give them access to vendor instruction manuals for your ABI, AMS platforms that you have. If you don't have them, ask your ABI vendors for them. They should be able to provide them to you. Excel documents for uploading data into your ABI or AMS platform. Make sure those are up to date. They're formatted correctly. Reviewing recent publications of the Qatar and the Khmer. I know that is not the most exciting book or document to go read, as you're well aware, Mitch. But it really is helpful in understanding some of the methodology of the communication to and from customs on the back end.
It makes a nice desk decoration, but you should read it for sure.
Yes, it does. Or use it online. You don't save a tree. But cross, then the USHTS schedule. Those are providing your employees with access to those governmental websites are going to be exponentially helpful as well. And of course, the customs broker guidance for the trade community. I think that document is great, and you should reference it and train your employees on it. Provide them access to it as often as possible. And lastly, keep an open channel of communication between CBP, customers, and employees. This will help enable responsiveness and quick action to communication, directions, and notices from customs. And now for the fun stuff. So let's talk about how Magaya Customs Compliance can help to demystify the complexity of entry type 86. Hey, Amy, you still with us? If so, take it away. Hey.
Hello. Sure thing, Steve. So to see any gains from type 86, you will have to be able to handle thousands of bills simultaneously. As a result, your software will need to be able to handle the volume. If it gets bogged down downloading or processing entry data at any time, then these gains are null and void. With Magaya Customs Compliance, you can do just that. Upload thousands of house bills from one Excel sheet to receive the customs release of your Section 321 packages in minutes. You can also use house bills to create air AMS, cargo release entries, eliminating potential holes or delays at the port of entry. So what will you need? You'll need to connect to an ABI platform to submit the entries via EDI or API. As an ABI software solution, Magaya Customs Compliance empowers direct ABI connection and the ability to submit entries via EDI or API, making it easier to submit multiple entry type 86 bills for approval simultaneously. So what that's saying is you can submit thousands and thousands of bills within minutes. To do this, you'll need to connect to the ABI platform to submit the entries via EDI or API. As an ABI software solution, Magaya empowers direct API connectivity and the ability to submit the entries, making it easy to get thousands of approvals simultaneously. When it comes to the PGA flags, it may invalidate type 86 submissions if fee payment is required. As a result, it is critical to deploy software solutions that include automatic analysis of potential PGA flags for filing. Magaya Customs Compliance real-time data exchange with U.S. Customs eliminates delayed responses on submission statuses. Shipment statuses responses are received immediately, including may proceed from FDA release and CBP and more. The real-time API and EDI enabled you to connect your in-house application with CBP and PGA and automatically analyze potential PGA flags within the system as soon as the house bills are uploaded. Another important aspect of PGAs is disclaiming them. You ideally want to disclaim them in a mass fashion. Magaya Customs Compliance API connection keeps you in compliance with PGAs because of its ability to easily and automatically mass disclaim PGAs across the entire entry set. So if you have an FDA 1 and you want to be able to disclaim it at all times, you can do that on thousands of house bills on a click of a button. And my last PGA tip is to find software solutions that clearly display PGA flags that are not able to be disclaimed. Why? Because PGA flags that cannot be disclaimed require submission of PGA data via Type 86 entry. As a Type 86 entry file, you can file the entries together or separate from the PGA-related entities as a preventative measure. Your PGA-related goods may hold up the release of your non-regulated goods. In Magaya Customs Compliance, for example, you can easily identify the PGA flags that are not able to be disclaimed because the system automatically displays the flags. This significantly reduces the time you spend searching for those non-compliant entries. Filers can upload PGA data with an enhanced Excel spreadsheet that can be uploaded directly into a new or current shipment. Steve, do you mind wrapping us up?
Hey, no problem, Amy. Great job. Appreciate the tips. So on that time-saving note, our next tip would be to have the ability to mass replace HTS codes across the entire entry. The entries will often share the same HTS code. And these mass replace HTS tools, they eliminate the time-consuming task of manual identification and tariff replacement. So luckily, again, here at Magaya, we have a solution that allows you to mass replace HTS codes across the entire entry set. So you can speed up your Type 86 entry processes, like if you have expired HTS codes or whatever the case may be. And lastly, we want to be able to filter and segregate entries based on their statuses, depending on their PGA status, HTS code, entry status, release times. They all differ across orders. Magaya Customs Compliance will automatically segregate these entries into hold, rejected, accepted, release statuses to help give you the visibility that you need, the organization that you need, and of course to facilitate and streamline internal order tracking. So the ability to filter released versus accepted, pending a release, or maybe rejected will really help eliminate the time it would take to search for those types of transactions that may fall through the cracks.
Oof. Well, that was fantastic. That was a lot of good stuff to get through, and I appreciate the great tips, team. So I just want to kind of conclude everything here. So what I'm hearing, if I got this right, is You're telling us that it's essential to reduce processing friction for customs businesses to satisfy their customers' expectations, all while remaining profitable.
That's correct, Mitch. And Entry Type 86 makes it possible to better manage those Section 321 de minimis imports, but it also offers the biggest benefit to import operations when paired with intelligent, automated ABI software. Key is automation. Make sure your ABI software allows for that type of automation that are capable of handling large volume, low value shipment filings here at scale.
Got it. Like you said, like our customer that just increased to 2 million more, right?
Yep.
All right, so now time for our last poll question. Which one of these tips would help accelerate your customs processes? All right, so again, across the board, there's one that really stands out. All the above. So fantastic that there's a lot of good pieces out of what we talked about today that could help potentially expedite and demystify and help with customers' businesses here. So that's awesome. Hopefully you learned something from today, and like I said, we'll open up for Q&A. But before we do get to Q&A, we have one other little piece of housekeeping here. Just a quick little survey, and then we will get to our question and answer session. Alrighty, so moving on to Q&A. So we had a couple questions queued up that were sent to us previously and earlier before the webinar, and a couple in the chat here. So we'll kick it off. And Amy, I'll lean on you for this first one. So, for those people who maybe said that they aren't as familiar or just starting this journey, can you just give a high level, what exactly ABI software is and hopes to accomplish?
Sure. So ABI stands for Automated Broker Interface. It's a U.S. customs program available to importers and brokers as a way to reduce the potential for import data errors. According to CBP, 96% of all import entries are filed using ABI. And ABI software is a type of specialized professional software that automates and streamlines the exchange of data between brokers, carriers, forwarders, and other importers and U.S. Customs.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, I'm gonna go down one or a couple here for you. Is Magaya Customs Compliance a SaaS solution?
Great question, Mitch. Yeah, fully hosted in the cloud, Magaya Customs Compliance is available as a subscription-based license. So you can focus on running a business instead of managing technical hardware and software systems.
Got it. Got it. And Amy, since you've actually sat in this seat before, right, prior to your life with us here, what if someone's not sure if they really need ABI software, and how do they know if they're kind of at that point where they need to digitize their operations?
So whether you're a customs broker, an importer, carrier, FTZ operator, CFS operator, you're faced with the challenges of growing competition, fast changing tariff and regulations, and constant need for accelerated processes. Magaya Customs Compliance gives you the technology that you need to spend less time on paperwork and while staying compliant and being connected directly with CBP.
Got it. Thank you. It looks like we have some pretty savvy folks who asked the question, and Steve, I'll kick this one to you. Magaya Customs Compliance, is it an ACE certified ABI solution?
Oh yeah, otherwise we wouldn't be here. It's listed as an ACE certified ABI solution with customs as ACE-Link, since ACE-Link was acquired by Magaya in 2020, and also certified ACE as ABI Service Bureau and an NCBFAA member.
Awesome. Awesome. A couple more here. We'll just go back and forth. So Amy, do I need, or does this person need to use Magaya supply chain in order to use Magaya Customs Compliance? Because I see a couple of our customers on here, so probably someone who has supply chain or maybe doesn't and wants to know if that's required to use Magaya Customs Compliance.
No, absolutely not. You can use Magaya Customs Compliance independent of your TMS or with your TMS or your ERP and other system of choice.
Perfect. Okay, a couple more coming in. So Steve, we already have an ABI solution. We are looking for a program to automate data entry instead of manual entry. Does Magaya have this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got open API with our AMS solution as well as our ABI solution. So whether you're filing you're manifesting the house bills, or if you're filing the type 86 entry, which would be the ABI, the question wasn't that specific if it needed AMS as well, but we have an open API with it. We provide the specs, the IT team, or your IT team can do the mapping and then drop that file, the XML, into an SFTP where we create the entry for you. So our 86 and AMS modules do both have an open API.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. And Amy, is it $800 per shipment or per package?
It's $800 total per person per day. So if you have multiple items in that shipment, as long as it's $800 or below, then you're okay. So it's if that shipment has multiple items, as long as the total value, retail value, is $800 or less, you're okay.
Yeah, so I could have some shoes in there, Amy. I could have a pair of board shorts. I could have some tank tops, but as long as they're all under $800, that'd be one house bill that would be considered a type 86.
Correct. Or you could have multiple packages, right? Maybe they are shipping stuff to you in different packages. As long as the total is $800 per person per day, you're covered.
Yeah. Cool.
It sounds like Steve is going surfing, according to that.
Yeah. I think Alicia asked another question. That's for all type 1 entries, type 2 informal. We've got an open API with our entry summary, with our entry or release module. So not just type 86.
We have another question as far as showing an example or a video. We don't have that set up now, but we would be happy to set up a meeting to show you kind of how that actual loading of entries in Magaya and sending info to custom works. We'd be happy. So either we can reach out to you after this, or you can reach out directly to us, but we'll be happy to set that up for you for that other question that's out there. And then one final one, Steve, that I have for you, based on your experience, like I had mentioned at the very beginning when I introduced you, you've been here for a very long time at Magaya / ACE-Link. So, in your mind, what kind of makes Magaya Customs Compliance stand out as an ABI vendor, compared to the rest of the market?
Mitch, I'd have to answer that with some of the most common feedback that I get from our filers, right? The easy use, the user interface, and most ABI providers, they're going to do what you need them to do, right? They're going to get your data sent to customs. It's who can do it quickest, who can do it easiest, who can make my life easier as a customs broker, because I already work in a complex, confusing industry where punctuality is everything. And I think that's where we excel, is we do have a great support team, especially here on the compliance side, and I stand behind each and every one of them with supporting our filers and the user interface itself being a newer, innovative, up-to-date approach in dinosaur industry. Does that help, Mitch? Does that answer the question?
I mean, does for me, but hopefully the person that does as well. But so I don't see any other questions out there on the chat. We answered all of the ones that we had that were submitted prior and just at the beginning of this. So with that, I think we're good. So obviously, thank you everyone for attending. It's been a pleasure spending just over an hour with everyone. So if you have any questions, please reach out. We loved having you here, and Steve and Amy, I will volunteer them to talk to anybody and anyone, everybody and anyone about Type 86 and Section 321, and hopefully also how Magaya could be a potential help in those arenas for your business. So thank you everyone very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, guys. Bye, Mitch.